I just wanted to take a quick second to talk about the recent Kindle announcement that they will no longer be allowing older Kindle models, I think before 2012, if I'm not mistaken, to receive books. I'm not going to talk about why they're doing that. I have my suspicions, but there are people who have done a much better job of keeping up with Kindle and Amazon news who have put out videos about this. The question that I want to address is if I want to get away from having a Kindle but have a similar e-reader experience to what I have, what should I look at? And I'm going to specifically focus on the type of Kindle I have, which is the Kindle Oasis. This is the 10th edition, I believe. I could be wrong about that. I will put a correction on the screen if needed. But I purchased this specifically because I wanted an e-reader that could have both touchscreen and buttons. I have to have the buttons. I need to be able to touch buttons in order to navigate. Just having a touchscreen, I don't find it comfortable personally. So I still love my Oasis. It does have much better screen resolution than my other e-reader that I am about to show. My understanding is that that's pretty standard. If you have an e-reader that also doubles as an Android tablet, it's not uncommon for that e-reader to have less resolution in terms of the e-ink screen. Again, there are people who have gone into the science of that or the technological specifications of that. I am not that person. I'm not going to do that. But what I will tell you is that after my research, there were 3 options that came up. One of them was a Kobo e-reader. I decided against that almost immediately because after doing just a tiny bit more research, Kobo is another locked-in infrastructure. So I wasn't going to go from one corporation to another, and the problem is if Kobo becomes large because of Amazon's various shenanigans pushing away their clients and customers, they'll start doing the same stuff. Because one of the things that I do know about the Kindle is some of the shenanigans are publisher-based, not necessarily Amazon's decisions. So a good example of that is I remember many years ago, someone had a copy of 1984. It was a student, and it was removed from his Kindle, and that was a publisher decision. It was actually the publisher that asked Amazon, or forced Amazon, I guess, to remove it because they were putting out a new edition and that older edition was, according to them, out of date. And I've always remembered that, not because I am in support of Amazon's tactics or am a huge proponent of theirs, but just because it gets much more complicated on the back end, and I don't want to deal with that if I don't have to. So that being said, the 2 that I looked at more extensively, and I apologize if you can hear all the barking that's going on. There's somebody walking on the street, if you can imagine. But anyway, I specifically found 2 that I was particularly interested in. One of them was a books, and specifically one of their color e-readers. I don't remember the model anymore. I apologize, because that's not what I ultimately went with. I ultimately went with the Big Me, which is specifically the Big Me 751C. So it's a color e-reader, and it is also a tablet. The reason I went with this one was primarily price. It was actually on sale over the holidays, over the Christmas holidays, and I thought that it was a good price, and I had seen a couple of reviews about it that it did everything that I wanted it to do. So by using this, if I want, I can install KO Reader. I use the Kindle app on here, but I can also make highlights, take notes, etc., etc. It is an Android system, so I can install all of the apps that I like using when I'm reading. I do basically only use this as an e-reader and note-taking device. I don't use video on it. I'm not interested in that. According to some of my research, if you do watch video on your e-reader, your color color e-ink tablet, I should say, it actually will wear out the e-ink faster. So I'm not interested in it anyway. I don't imagine that it would look very good, but because of that, I don't use it. I don't use it as a browser really, only if needed when I'm working in something, if I have to click on a link. But mostly I've just used it for Kindle and other e-reader needs, because I mentioned I do have KO Reader on here, but mostly I use this with the Kindle app, not necessarily because, again, I love Amazon, but because I use Libby to get my library books, and the library books come to my Kindle app, and so that's how I read these. So I'm not going to do a full review of this. I just wanted to point out, if you are using an Oasis, this model is something that you could consider using. Again, there was this one and a Books tablet that I was really going back and forth between. The Books tablets are supposed to be really, really good quality as well. I particularly liked this one because it came with the pen, and I did want to use it for notes and highlighting and everything, and it has buttons and touchscreen. So I can touch it if I want and it will do things, or I can use the buttons down here. It works the way that I wanted it to. It is also, as I mentioned, a color e-reader. I did want to go ahead and get a color e-reader in case I start getting more into comics. I haven't so far, but I do have a couple of books that have color and they're electronic, and it's just nice to be able to see the color on them. And you can change the e-ink settings to make it more crisp, etc., etc. It's not going to be as crisp as a full black and white, but it hasn't been a huge issue for me, especially since I still have my Oasis. Again, my Oasis is not going to be impacted by the recent update by Amazon, but that it probably will in the future, so we'll see what happens there. But I just wanted to make this to let you know this is an option for those of us who like the Oasis and want to switch to something similar with buttons and a touchscreen that doesn't lock you into another corporation's system. I would recommend Bigme. Again, there's also Books. I honestly don't think Books is worse. It was just a matter of price at the end of the day. I pulled up the Bigme website and they were having a sale for the model that I purchased, so I went ahead and purchased it. It's that simple. I just wanted to put that out there. I can do a full review on my experience with the 71C or 751C, words. If y'all are interested, happy to do that. Just let me know in the comments. But I just wanted to provide just kind of a quick, hey, FYI, here's something you can consider if you'd be interested in switching away from the full Amazon ecosystem to something that can still let you interact with it if you need to, like I do for Libby books from the library, but can also interact with the other systems that are out there, download books in different formats, etc.